What's going on, Imperials? It's Emperor Cubone here. We've all thought before how cool it would be to have a game that actually let you become a part of an evil team in Pokémon, right? It would be a huge shakeup to let you do crimes in this universe, but apparently you never needed to actually join Team Rocket because random people commit crimes every day by using illegally hacked Pokémon. It's probably not actually a crime, but Pokémon that are well below the level they should be, or knowing attacks that shouldn't even be possible, is far more common than I ever expected. Like, everybody knows about how Lance is a dirty rotten cheater with his underleveled Dragonite, and knowing Barrier when they can't even learn it, but who would have thought that a random picnicker would be so underhanded too? Like, look at the Kanto region. There are bikers that have a level 29 Muck, which is 9 levels below where it should be to evolve, or multiple level 25 Weezing, a full 10 levels below where it evolves. There's something seriously shady going on the bike path because they are littered with poison Pokemon that are close to 10 levels below where they should be. Now maybe you would understand those kinds of deceitful tactics coming from some sketchy characters like that, but what about the more straight-laced scientists? Because Silph has a full 12 scientist trainers that have Pokemon that should not yet be evolved. Granted, they aren't exactly as far away, some of them only 1 level below the cap, but then why not just boost them 1 level to make sense? Corruption to this degree makes me wonder if Silph might have been working with Team Rocket all along, because there are grunts in the building with illegal Pokemon to match. And these types of close calls are all over the place, like how Centiskorch evolves at level 28, right? So then why is Kabu's only 27 in the gym? Like, you're so close, why not just make it proper? Do they think that just barely crossing the line won't get them busted for not following the league rules? And gyms are pretty bad for this in general. Both of Norman's Slacking are totally illegal. The Opelucid gym has Haxorus way before they should, and Johto in general really is pretty bad for this, with Gold and Silver starting with a Pidgeotto in the single digits. And then most of Price's team are evolved when they shouldn't be. And this old codger really goes all out because his Piloswine also knows a move that it shouldn't yet, having Fury Attack somehow before it even evolves. I guess if you're already bending the rules, then what's another offense to give yourself a leg up, right? Even Brock does this in Pokemon Yellow. Infamously, his Onix has Bind, but Onix doesn't actually learn Bind until level 15, and his is only at level 12. However, in Gen 2, Onix did learn Bind earlier than level 12, and through the time capsule, you could actually trade Kanto Pokemon back from Johto to Gen 1, so Onix could be displaced in time, I suppose. I mean, honestly, that could be the case for all of these Pokemon if you wanted an excuse, but there's no way that was intentional foreshadowing by the time they made Yellow version. Brock is just a downright cheater. And of course, rivals are not above this either, because Dawn can have a Mr. Mime in Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl that can somehow learn Power Whip, which is a super strong grass attack that Mr. Mime has literally never been able to learn, even from a TM or anything. So Dawn pulled off a way better trick than any invisible walls that Mr. Mime would normally do. But while we're in Sinnoh, I think it's important to look at Mars and her Purugly. This Pokemon is up there as one of the most notorious for how tough it is that early in the game. And there's good reason for that, because at level 16, it should still be a Glameow. In fact, it should still be a Glameow for 22 more levels. Even if you doubled its platinum level, the cat still wouldn't evolve naturally. So I don't know what's going on here. Maybe they're following the Team Rocket playbook from the Lake of Rage and forcing Pokemon to evolve, but then it would probably be shiny, I guess. So instead, she's just taunting us with how strong she is when it shouldn't even be possible. Although she's already turned to a life of crime, so I guess a few more infractions wouldn't make that big of a difference. And you would think that maybe this would get better with time, but this is not one of those quirks that's only in the older games, because X and Y is just as bad with an illegal Kadabra as early as Route 5, and the Battle Chateau is filled to the brim with level 25 Pokemon that absolutely should not be, the most egregious being Rhydon, who doesn't evolve until level 42. But maybe you don't think an optional battle area is worth writing home about. That's fine. The Alola region does the same thing. Once again, they have multiple Muck in their clutches. I don't know why that's such a popular choice for frauds, but my favorite has got to be Hiker David, who interrupts your fire-type trial with a level 19 Magmar. As you may know, Magby evolves at level 30, and unlike other Pokemon, there is no incense hatching shenanigans that can get you a Magmar a full 11 levels under where it should be. So Hiker David better watch out that those totem Pokemon don't come after him next. Back on the attacking side of cheating, in Emerald we have a Lantern in Victory Road that can use Earthquake, only problem is that it's never been able to learn Earthquake. You don't even really have to know that for it to seem off that a fish who would be weak to that move has enough mastery over the land to use one of the best attacks ever created. Gotta say, not very cool of you, cool trainer Diane. But while we're on Hoenn, it is worth looking at Sydney. The first Elite Four member of the region may have felt a little insecure because he has been cheating with the setup on his Shiftry. See, his Shiftry knows Extrasensory, which is a great move, especially back then when it had 30 PP, but the real problem is that only Nuzleaf can learn this attack at level 49 before it evolves because it's one of the stone evolutions, yet in Gen 3 his Shiftry is only at level 48. So it's not possible for him to be using that move. But he is a Dark-type trainer, so I guess we shouldn't be surprised that he's willing to resort to such devious strategies. Now, they did change this in Oros to have Nuzleaf learn Extrasensory at a lower level, but I think we can all see through that retcon, so we're on to you, Sydney. Now, one of the most unbelievably shameless instances of packing illegal attacks on Pokemon has got to revolve around form changes. Because to me, the downright craziest example of this is School Kid Anne in Pokemon Black and White. This conniving little twerp seems innocent enough, but somehow she has managed to get a Wormadam with a sandy cloak that has the attack Leaf Storm. As you might have expected, that's not a thing in Pokemon, as each cloak learns their own types of attacks when they evolve, and you can't change between the different cloaks once you have evolved your Burmy. So if her Bagworm has the Sand Cloak at that level, they should have learned Fissure instead. And this isn't just a random glitch without consequences. A ground type suddenly having an, at the time, 140 base power grass attack to take on its water type weaknesses is not just unfair, it's practically game-breaking. I mean, imagine if an NPC Talonflame suddenly had the perfect counter to rock types by packing Aqua Jet or something. It makes no sense why they would randomly get such a special advantage. And this is not the only time that it's happened either. As part of the battle tree, there's a trainer that has a Rotom in its fan form, yet it somehow has access to Blizzard, which should be exclusive to the Frost variant. Now, this one isn't nearly as big of a problem since Ice doesn't really counter any flying weaknesses, but it's still clearly against the spirit of the game. Of course, it's also clearly a bug in the system because there's also a real Rotom Frost in the battle tree that has access to Air Slash. So it's obvious that these two somehow got swapped in the coding of the game. But it is still quite jarring to get obliterated by a Pokemon that's packing a coverage attack that you couldn't possibly account for. But as maybe the biggest standout of illegal Pokemon that shouldn't even be achievable, we have the Starmobiles from Scarlet and Violet. These cars were a pretty big deal in the lead up to Gen 9, because we heard about them before we even knew what a Revavroom was. So it's no surprise that we fought so many throughout our time in Paldea. What is surprising is that at least 3 of them shouldn't even exist, as they are as much as 20 levels below evolution. At best, they should be grouping together a bunch of Varoom instead, and trying to make a car out of that, which honestly would have been way funnier, and they could have made it into a bit about how inept Team Star is, only to have it be even cooler once the actual car arrives at the proper level after the midway point. Because really, Team Star was never supposed to be super threatening like most of the other evil teams. They were only ever just some school kids cut in class, not some actual villains bent on world domination. So their leaders flagrantly having multiple illegal Pokemon across the region doesn't really fit the theme here. And all just so they could have some sweet rides to impress their little grunts. Hope it was worth getting arrested. This is why you stay in school, kids. But at the very least, if you feel too slighted by the constant cheating, then you too can use some illegal Pokemon on occasion, with different events over the years handing out underleveled Pokemon that can then evolve further, and there are even some spots of wild Pokemon that you can naturally collect and use throughout the game, like a level 12 Marowak, level 10 Dragonair, level 5 Azumarill, or a level 5 Gyarados. Illegal moves are a bit harder for us to use, but there are still some fun circumstances like sneaking some moves into Gen 9 through the fusing of Calyrex forms, so maybe we can be the ones to blatantly ignore the rules for next time. Who am I kidding? We'll get caught for sure. But which use of illegal Pokémon is the most outlandish to you? Let me know down in the comments. Also be sure to leave a like, share this video, and subscribe so that you too can become an Imperial today. And until next time, stay grounded.